Aloha. This video I wanted to clear up some of the things I may have missed or kind of glazed over in the last video addressing the FAP universe, FAP Earth, and the whole FAP storyline. Expand it a little bit related to some of the things I was feeling during the fast, and go take it a step even further into like where I'm at, like my mind is around this whole thing. So before I forget, some of the things that I wanted to emphasize in the last video, but may have not made completely clear is the idea of the FAP universe or FAP Earth is a direct, um, like it relates directly to the mind control programs of every layer of consciousness. So the soul, the mind, and the body. Like I explained, the three-tiered chess game of the soul, the mind, and the body in reference to the distraction game that is presented in our reality of red versus blue, Democrats versus Republican, good versus evil, the whole superhero adolescent version of this realm. It's still movie-like. It's a fairy tale. We're living in underneath an empire that still thinks it's in control of, the world, because of what? How did it get that power? How did the empire that created the heliocentric mind control program get to where it is today? This is a thing that I wanted to emphasize in the last video, that I don't see truthers, flat earthers on the whole. The percentages of people are way less, 50% of the people who are even mentioning this shit. The majority of people are too busy trying to, now I don't want to generalize too much, but how I see it, the majority of people in the so-called truther communities and flat earth communities and that whole thing are really still kind of just like pointing the finger and still just saying, okay, well, what, really just waiting for the system to fix itself, or waiting for the system to um, fess up for its crimes against humanity. See, that's the best case scenario for many people, is if the system fesses up for the crimes against humanity. Well, what I'm talking about on this channel is that the very idea that you accept that you are the human body before you express the space of being the soul, first and foremost, that is a mind control program. That is a universe in itself. So what happens is that, just like porn and meat eating and fast food, candy, sugar, that whole thing, this is an addiction program. We become addicted to our own enslavement. So you become addicted to something in this space when it's easy to become addicted to something if you don't know that you are being conditioned to be addicted to something. You don't you It's easy to see it when, like, in relation to the doctors back in the day saying that, 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 9 doctors recommend Newports or recommend Pall Mall cigarettes. Like, this was a thing. So you can see how far removed from real health, the real concern, real genuine interest in the health and welfare of the individual is non-existent even in the so-called health care system. It's all a money-making scheme. That's how it started. And the people who are still, acting like the empire is not a problem, or the empire is not something that we need to be talking about, they're actually defending the mind control programs of enslavement, of addiction. So let me finish that before I forget. Just like the doctors back in the day were recommending cigarettes to the people, and then they found out it was killing people, the same thing is happening today. We are recommended a self-destructive world by the authorities who stole the authority, who created this artificial authority on top of the blood and the bones of the intelligence, the creative intelligence of your ancestors. And beyond that, set the foundation, taking it a step even further to making these mind control programs so complex that you now install those mind control programs into the individual. So this is how all this stuff gets passed on down the line to the generations. So we are being recommended by the authorities, just like the medical authorities or the doctors were recommending cigarettes back then. We are being recommended this Fap Earth sort of consciousness in our food, in our healthcare, so-called healthcare, in our politics, in our education, in our relationships, in our interactions in the community, in our culture, in the lack of culture, in the commercial plastic sort of society, in the plastic people, and the undead, zombified sort of mentality. All of this is very related to or tied directly into this reality of an addictive universe. So the thing is to trigger your lower senses and then to label those lower senses or lower parts of yourselves as the end all be all. So this links back into the video that I did a few days ago talking about the human animal program. So the fapping emphasis in society is no different than the meat eating or the alcoholic or the alcohol amplification in society. This is all accepted. It's accepted to affect you on a subconscious level and a conscious level, to keep us out individually and collectively from ourselves, keep us away from our maximum potential, to create limitations, to create barriers, to create self-destructive programs that we install within ourselves. And by the time we figure out that we've been self-destructing for our entire lives, either we're caught up in a system where we have so many responsibilities that we need to invest in the system or pay our energy in some kind of way just to get our basic human resources. So you have to pay these gangsters taxes. These tax gangsters, these are the ones that take the most taxes. They're the ones that create tax to create in who created that mentality in the first place? Who created the authority to say that? And then just like Make America Great Again, this is no different than, requiring people talk about this is the stuff that's put out there to distract you. People are yelling about Make America Great Again, but they're not really addressing the fact that the birth certificate program, the maritime admiralty system, the meat eating industry, the accepted consciousness of modern society is in itself a self-destructive program. What was I linking that back to before I started that? Addiction. I think I was linking that back to that being in itself a program no different, a program to create limitations within self-destructive limitations with ourselves, no different than accepting the primal nature of the monkey evolution program. So this is why meat eating and alcohol and hypersexualization, these are big things. So alcohol affects your mind and your stomach brain, affects your body, your mind, and your soul, really. The food, same thing, body, mind, soul. And the fapping, also, same thing. The sex, the hypersexualization, it affects your security, it affects your confidence, it affects your relationships. Everything is designed to create an insecure relationship with the self, so that now that you have an insecure relationship with yourself, you are now okay. It's the norm to have an insecure relationship or a broken, self-destructive relationship with somebody else. Why? Because everybody's broken. So it's just the norm. The same way that doctors were recommending cigarettes back in the day. That's the norm. The authorities said so. So right now, a lot of these, conscious communities and truthers and all this other stuff, they're actually the most dangerous individuals out there because they're not really addressing the authority in any kind of way. A lot of them are just, throwing information out that's actually beneficial for the system to utilize against us in the future if we do not address the authority. See, we're still not addressing shit that was fucked up from 50, 60 years ago. So like the doctor thing. They didn't just oops and mess up and recommend cigarettes to millions of people back in the day. And they didn't just do that for money. What the fuck do you think that was done for? That was done to install within generations of people this self-destructive program of smoking cigarettes and addiction and so on and so forth. So to emphasize the point, and not go any further into that because that's already known, the idea of the FAP universe or FAP Earth is a play on the reality that addiction is the biggest money maker. Money is not the thing that makes the world go around. Money is not the root of all evil. Your lack of self-control and self-discipline comes before the money. Lack of self-control and self-discipline, morals and ethics and all that other shit. That stuff is what makes the decision of evil to be acted out through the monetary system. See, like I said, these fake truthers, they like, and I don't want to really say fake truthers because a lot of them don't even realize what they're doing. So it's not like happening on purpose. A lot of it's happening without people realizing that they're doing it. And a lot of them have the best of intentions. Regardless, I don't want to, even pay any attention to that because the main thing to realize is that the system itself is going to use these individuals, whether they realize they're doing something fucked up or not. They're going to be used to sell in this sustainable, free energy, utopian sort of new world order consciousness of the people. It's already happening right now. What do you think Obama was? What do you think that was a step into this whole new world order leader type mentality? So now 2020 or Trump right now leading up to 2020, he is the bar that is set so low, and I've said this before. He's the bar that's set so low for this system, so that when you do get an individual to that looks like or feels like an Obama or something, people are gonna eat it up. They're gonna just accept it because they're thirsty, hungry for so much, for something, because we've had nothing for so long. Basically, like these 4 years of Trump are going to be anti-collective energy. Like, just imagine the energy that we would have if we started working together and we didn't have to worry about like all the resources that are being hoarded by these colonial fuckers who just don't want to let go of their bullshit ass like Tonka truck play school ass alchemy, their play school ass empire. They don't want to let that go. These cheap ass magicians can't comprehend. They can't comprehend a world where they are not in charge, where they do not have the authority of this reality. And if they can comprehend it, then they're in a space of being outwardly like against you. Like, this is the spiritual warfare, psychological warfare. I mean, it's obvious to see the physical warfare. All these politicians they're fighting to defend the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex. This is what's happening right now. All the politics, so-called capitalism, so-called democracy, they are defending their right to amplify and expand the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, and everything else that is in and around that kind of mentality. And they don't give a fuck about you or what you're thinking about. So in order, but the system knows at the same time that you are thinking about something. You are in many different ways, whether you're doing it actively or not. The consciousness of the masses is in a world of holding the system accountable in some kind of way. The eyes are on it now, as opposed to not that long ago when you couldn't even mention that this system was fucked up in any kind of way. This is that whole idea of that first world, third world mentality. This whole like, well, and people still do this too. You can see it in the comment section of these videos. When I start talking about transhumanism, simulation theory, technology, and how all that's used to enslave us, ultimately, the response I get back from people, knee-jerk response a lot of the times, is like, well, aren't you using technology? Don't you have this? Don't you have that? Aren't you benefiting from this? So, this is the defense mechanism. That's like an individual defending cigarettes. That's like somebody saying, well, don't you trust doctors? Don't you go to the doctor when you break your arm? Don't you get medicine from medical doctors who went to medical school? What do you mean cigarettes are bad for you? How dare you? Simply because, 5 out of 6 or 9 out of 10 doctors recommend, Camel Lights or some shit like that, whatever. So that's where we are on a non-physical energetic space, and I really just kind of wanted to emphasize the idea of addiction and really tie it back into like some of the feelings that I was feeling when I was fasting. And there's something related to our, like, this is already known, and people already know this, but it was if you haven't done it yet, a fast, or have pulled back or completely cut out fapping, from having done, ate a lot of meat, and then have been on like a regular fapping schedule for the majority of my like adult life, now having stopped, you can see the relationship between like your body. You can feel your body a lot more, the same way that I feel like a lot of energy out of nowhere. Like I'm like, where the fuck is this energy coming from? I'm spending out, like I'm out walking around for hours, and logging in like 4, 5, 6 plus miles a day, still having energy. Physical and like psychologically, I'm not tired at all. Spiritually, I'm not tired at all. Some things psychologically and spiritually tire me out when I do that. But what's happening now is that my energy, what is the word? Like cells are constantly replenished naturally. And I can't help but think that it has something to do with not, losing a lot of that energy from expending my creative energies into the emptiness of this broken, undead ass consciousness reality. So you're kind of like you're saving a big part of yourself. You're saving it's not really saving, it's harnessing. So harnessing of energy, harnessing of the creative reality, rather than just being subjected to it. See, the system wants you to be subjected to it, so it creates this animal consciousness, so it can be the savior for your human consciousness within you just being an animal. It wants to be the authority to teach you how to become a human, but it doesn't want you to become a human like a spiritual human. It wants you to become an animalistic, technological human. And like I said in the beginning, that's the best case scenario for a lot of people. What I'm talking about on this channel with a lot of the videos is, again, I'm talking about the fact that just accepting that the authority tells you that you are an animal, human, monkey, so on and so forth, and subjected to the limitations of this reality. Not saying that you're not, just saying that you're not completely limited by what they tell you, what's been installed into your reality. Like Joe Rogan, I was just seeing a Joe Rogan video, and I'm glad I mentioned it now. I happened to come across a video where Joe Rogan was talking to somebody about fapping or no fap. Somebody on this was about a few months ago or something like that. Can't remember who it was, but you can look it up. Joe Rogan's no fap response was, it was, hold on, let me see. Oh, I can't stop, pause it. All right, well, let's just remember what he said then, because I was going to go back and do it. So, the guy started off bringing up NoFap, and Joe Rogan went straight into, like, he has no bearings to talk about what happens with NoFap. When you get, he's been engaged in that world for so long. He's like one of those doctors recommending cigarettes. He can't imagine a world without cigarettes. He can't imagine, you can't even comprehend, he can't even comprehend a world without masturbation, without the hypersexualized consciousness in our reality. So when somebody brings up NoFap to him, he sees that world with the goggles, with the addictive goggles, with the animalistic human goggles of, what's going on. So what he said in that video, now I remember, what he thinks happens when you go into NoFap, when you remove that from your world, he thinks, and he said that when you do that, you're going to be so filled with sexual energy that you're just going to want to fuck everything that's around you, and you're just going to engage in all this fuckery you're going to find people. If you're not masturbating, you're going to go out there and you're going to go find people to fuck, and you're just going to fuck until you can't fuck anymore because you're filled with all of this sexual energy. So that's what it is. See, when you go into NoFap, you realize that it's not sexual energy. It's not. That's like, you know what I'm saying. It's not. It's creative energy. It's your creative energy. That's like calling. It's like that's what it is comparable to. It's like somebody calling themselves woke. It's empty. It's nothing. There's nothing there. So, anyway, he has no bearings. He has so he has no way of responding to what that individual said when he was bringing up NoFap. But that's his podcast. He has to seem smart. He's the smart guy, but he's not. He's not really smart at all. He's just a. I can't even say that like he has any kind of intelligence that's worth mentioning, because every type of intelligence that I've seen from him is just, it's the intelligence of the undead. It's nothing that is of any kind of benefit to the people who are living or challenging themselves to get into the realms of the non-physical soul self. Not this bullshit like, we're all human, we're all one. That's the New World Order getting ready to sell you some flat earth utopia New World Order bullshit. And then melt it all together with technology, glue it all together with technology, simulation theory, a new interpretation of the religious or spiritual reality. Instead of Christianity, they're going to go into like this spiritual version of transhumanism. And then lock it down with simulation theory and just say, and just basically like mechanize God. And then once they've mechanized God, then technology becomes your God. No different than the university system or the intellect, the consciousness of the colonial university system is your God today. The highest intelligence today. This is why all this fake version of connecting to the spirit is out there. Because the real authority of your reality is locked into the education system and the colonial authorities of, this maritime admiralty bullshit reality. So the authority amplifies and promotes addictive behavior, because when you are addicted to something, you are shutting down your capabilities of, in many, not completely, but in many different ways, you're shutting off your abilities to tap into the non-physical versions of yourself. So this is how we get de-evolved into this human animal consciousness, and we can't really figure our way out, because the ways that we have been presented to think that we're getting out are not ways out. They're ways back in to a deeper layer or a deeper level of what we thought we were getting out of in the first place. This is why I say it's so crucial to hold the establishment, hold the consciousness of this addictive universe accountable, and not to be consumed by the bullshit that it puts out there to trap you within, trap us within. So let me see. Addiction. Oh, meat eating. So yeah. And this is the thing, I want to make this clear too. And I said this after my fast. Um, I'm not a vegan. I can't even really call myself completely a vegetarian right now, because I don't feel uncomfortable with going over a family member's house and they made some turkey or something, and I'll have like a turkey sandwich or something like that. I don't want to eat that stuff, but I'm not gonna come down on myself to do that. And this is the thing: when I buy stuff for my house, I don't buy any meat. I don't buy any of that stuff for inside the house. No dairy, no meat, none of that comes inside the house. But I still engage in a world that's heavily, anchored in that, and I'm not gonna live, enslave myself into, into this kind of separatist mentality just because whatever. I live my whole life eating that bullshit from. I'm not gonna die. It's kind of like counting pennies, and this is how I see it. Especially when the majority of my life, my energy is focused in kind of like building all this other stuff up. So anyway, yeah, I'm not promoting like absolute like abstinence and no meat and all that. Do whatever the fuck it is that you feel comfortable with, in that is not gonna fuck with anybody else. That's not gonna be like. So this includes, if you anybody, that includes like the animals and stuff like that. If you take it that far, then fine, you do that. And this is another thing. Don't expect everybody else to be on that same train. This is another world too, with the whole vegan agenda, because there is a vegan agenda, just the same way as there is agenda behind flat earth, the new age. This, it's very similar to the new age agenda. The way the new age is going to be and being utilized by the system is the same way the vegan agenda is being utilized for the system, to make it seem like it's getting better, or to make it seem like it's presenting situations that are good, to make it seem like the system is good and for the people. It's not. Like when they use all these keywords like sustainable and so on and so forth, that's not for your benefit. That's for that's to make the system look amazing and look like it's credible for you. So with the vegan agenda, I have no problems with people like going out there and protesting against meat factory or animal farms and all that other shit. I have no problems with people doing that. I'm not saying stop doing that when I mention the vegan agenda. I'm saying that be aware that the system is going to use that to its benefit, and it already is. And also be aware of your natural balances. Don't just react to the system. Don't just become a vegan because it's trendy or it's hip, or your emotions that you have attached to the animals and what's happening is, the driving force of what's going on. That's what's happening in the vegan agenda. A lot of it, not completely, but a lot of it is emotionally driven. And like I said, people become addicted to things very easily. So your emotions are heavily tied into this addictive behavior. Your emotions are heavily tied into a lot of the mind control programs that we are not aware of. So food is tied into your emotions. People eat because they're depressed. People eat because they have holes in themselves. So they fill themselves up with something to feel some kind of fullness. But it has nothing to do with your creative fullness. It's all about a synthetic fullness. That's the world. That's the world of FAP. That's the FAP universe, the FAP earth. It's a synthetic fullness. It's a fullness that doesn't last. It's kind of like the cocaine hit or something like it only lasts for so long. But since you keep getting those cocaine hits after hit after hit after hit after hit, like the last video was talking about how sexual dopamine triggers can just go on and on and on forever and overtake your physical capabilities. Like as long as you, like the mouse experiment, the mouse that was presented with new women every single time would have sex with the new mouse over and over and over again until it physically could not even move anymore, because those dopamine levels. So we are being chemically manipulated. These experiments, use these experiments for your own benefit. Don't just sit around and just see them. Use them. Think about this stuff. So if that's happening to mice, what's happening to you? Do mice have a mainstream media? Do mice have a Pornhub? Do mice have the meat eating industry? Do mice have Hollywood? Do mice have, look at all the education system? Do mice have the heliocentric universe? Do mice have, the pride of America? Do mice have, like capitalism? No, they have fucking just whatever the doctors or whatever those scientists, fuck with them with. But we have all this shit. We don't hold any of it accountable because we trust these assholes. We trust that authority. And what I'm saying is that the so-called truthers who are talking about this information are the most dangerous motherfuckers out there because they still trust the slave master. And they're avoiding sharing their deepest trust with the slave master by using the internet and social media as a buffer, as a space between. See, when you're talking to somebody one-on-one in person, you get straight to the point. You don't have to, you ain't gonna, there ain't no days or hours between comment section. There ain't waiting on other videos. You are talking to them directly. You will get an answer now. But with this internet bullshit, people are hiding behind their non-intentions. They are hiding behind their belief, their trust and hope in the slave master system. And as long as there's enough dopamine drip storylines out there, different storylines out there that can keep people from directly talking about or addressing what's going on at the deepest level, as long as there's stuff out there, you will have people who will believe them. So just like you believe, like you're like mentally or chemically, there's some kind of sexual thing that happens when you watch porn. The same thing is happening when you are watching these so-called truthers who ultimately don't give a fuck about you. You can really see that in some of them, not all of them, but ultimately even the ones that are saying like, we're all one and all that, when it really comes down to it, they don't give a fuck about you. That's the real fucking truth. These motherfuckers who are only in it for this YouTube fame and linear sort of just like, it's flat, and that's that whole bullshit. It's all a fucking show. It's all a show. They don't give one shit about you at all. This is what you will see when you start talking to these individuals face to face and one-on-one. This is why the internet and social media is so beneficial to this mind control program. Because like I said, like fapping, you have the illusion. You have the illusion of connection. You have the illusion of depth. You have the illusion of creative intelligence. You have the illusion of all this other stuff. But it's still filtered through what? Through something that's not you. Filtered through, and then also it's being filtered through the individuals. The individuals themselves who haven't done this work they themselves are a filter. and then they only share. They only filter parts of what they are insecure, like not insecure about, through their filter, and then put it through the YouTube filter. By the time it gets to you, you don't even have a shell of what's being, the depths of what's really being spoken on. So back to the addiction and that whole thing. So what was I saying? Meat eating. So yeah, I'm not saying like don't do anything. Like do whatever that do. If you feel like you need to masturbate, then do that. If you feel like you need to eat meat, then do that. This is not like a guilt trip or nothing. I'm just sharing the experiences of me going through what I feel is natural to me. So once I get through these experiments, then I'll share that information of what I came about with. So like with this no fap thing, it's it's not a thing to be done the way that I'm doing it. In my world, it's something like I'm approaching this situation from the perspective of like how this affects my life and how this affects the lives of the entire world, the micro and the macro. So just because it's that doesn't mean don't do. No, that's an extreme. So the main focus is to bring attention to the reality of creative energies, the creative realm. We are not even allowing ourselves to get into that space because the majority of our time and attention and focus is attached to defense mechanisms, egotistical bullshit, reacting to the system of mind control, so on and so forth. By the time you get out of that gauntlet, you're too exhausted to even talk about or do anything. So, and on top of that, there's no one way to do something. Like some people might, some people are raised on meat, for generations in certain areas. Like if you have some little like vegan activist out in Berkeley going out to Thailand or India, or not India because they're mostly vegetarian out there, but go out to somewhere where they don't have these problems. They don't have they have their own versions of these problems, but they don't have the problems that we have a lot when we're like in the epicenter of Hollywood and this mind control pro. They got different problems. I'm not saying they don't have any problems, but they don't think about that shit. But a lot of these so-called activists think they're like fucking like Captain America and they can go anywhere in the world and and it's like a universal idea that they have that they could just check. No, that's what got us in this fucking problem in the first place. Is these authority figures telling you what to do? No, first break that space of authority and then figure out what's after that. We haven't even gone into realizing that there's a system of authority out there on the whole, really. We haven't gone there yet. So until that happens, I'll still be addressing this. Once we get to that point and I feel comfortable where I am, then that's when I will shift gears. But we're not even there yet. So before we get there, let me clear some of this stuff. Like I said, the no-fap thing is to bring attention to a lifestyle change, a lifestyle accountability, not a thing like a challenge or something like this. Ain't a fucking game. This is your creative intelligence, your creative energies is not a game. This is not something that could be just summed up in a YouTube video or just explained away in a comment section. This is not what I'm talking about here. And this is the shit that happens, the trivializing of what's really going on that happens on the internet with social media. And this is what's happening when it gets promoted. And you can see that this is how it is when they're promoting individuals like Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Owen Benjamin, TYT, Bernie Sanders, Killer Mike, Brian Cox, like all these Western undead consciousness cucks that are out there. That whole reality is a way of life. The same way, like energetically. Don't think of it physically. Think about a way of life, a non-physical way of life, and you won't be able to see what that realm is until you start challenging yourself to get into questioning what that is and finding out what that is. We won't know what that is if we're just kind of just like trying to defend and explain things that we have no fucking idea what's going on. Like Joe Rogan was talking about NoFap, and he says that when you stop masturbating, that you're just going to be so filled with this sexual energy. That's like the most caveman ass basic math interpretation. He's no fucking doctor. He's no scientist. He's no authority in any of this shit. But he has a podcast with millions of people tuning into that. And that's exactly how many people are going to turn away from their own creative intelligence, creative energies, simply because they follow and trust that piece of shit. Because he sits there and says, yeah, that's true. The same way other people say, like, fapping helps with fighting prostate cancer. That's like that old what was that when they tell you some old fucked up shit back in the day that was like good, that they said it was good for you, it was actually killing, like the cigarettes thing. So yeah, so people are in this first and second grade type of consciousness because it's being maintained by individuals that have the authority to sell you information, like Joe Rogan on podcasts. He got to where he is not by his own merit, not because he's a super amazing genius, because he plays the role, he plays the game, because he's a little fuck just like everybody else in that scene who doesn't talk about the system itself. In fact, they only defend the system. That's why they're there in the first place. So Joe Rogan talking about NoFap and saying it's like this is gonna happen. He's telling he's not even talking to the human version of people. He's talking to the monkey mind. He's talking to the reptilian brain mind of people when he made that response about NoFap. He has no fucking idea about what that is, what this whole thing is. None at all. Yet he feels, because of his platform, like he has the authority to say something, and in his own realm. In that whole science world, there's information out there talking about NoFap, talking about the fatigue and anxiety, emotional stability, and so on and so forth that's involved in the expending of your creative energies, fluids, and all that other stuff. There's scientific evidence out there. But since he is such he's such an authority figurehead of the addictive world, it has to be way overshot. He can't even go into entertaining what that really is. And the guy he was interviewing there on his channel on that podcast that day, I don't want to say he did his best to try to like help Joe Rogan, to help Joe Rogan see what he was really talking about, because it seemed like he was trying to get Joe Rogan to see what he was talking about, see the benefits of it. But Joe Rogan was hell bent on saying, I already know what that's about. I already know what's gonna happen. You're just gonna have a bunch of over sex on the mind people out there. No, what happens with that is the exact opposite. You're not like over. You're not like. See, this is the thing. I'm not saying that you don't get horny or you don't have the sexual feelings anymore. It's that you are such a more vibrant being from not engaging in that realm, that sort of horny energy, just not being subjected to your emotions. You are not subjected to your primal nature. You're not subjected to your basic instincts or your basic chemical makeups anymore once you challenge yourself to get into the self-discipline and the realms of being accountable for your creative energy in some kind of way. See, this asshole, that he doesn't even know that shit exists. So he's going to see that realm, that information, that stuff from the perspective of like this pig-headed monkey evolution Darwinian consciousness. He's not even, it's like explaining, it's like a McDonald's chef trying to explain or it's like a McDonald's chef trying to fake create some kind of 5-star meal for the chefs around the world. That's what Joe Rogan in that whole FAP conversation was about. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sit your old McDonald's Playhouse ass down, or do some research at least. Do some say something of something. But no, that's another proof of what those individuals are out there for. What is their intention? So, addictive behavior. To be addictive is no different than to be subjected to your emotions. To be addicted to sex, to be addicted to food, to be addicted to social media, to be addicted to defending the slave master system, to be addicted to these broken relationships. These are all addictive behaviors that are all, like I said, beneficial to the system. So you can see all the different things that I brought up. This is not about perfection. Like, I'm not seeking perfection and all that other stuff. At this point, this is about being aware of the complexities of this reality. First and foremost, there are no answers in this place. There's more questions here. I think you get smarter when you have more questions than you do have answers, because you're constantly growing, you're constantly thinking, you're constantly challenging what it is that you're thinking and speaking about, and answering, questioning and answering. You're constantly growing what that is. But in this realm, in this FAP universe, FAP Earth, there is that is actually taboo. To think for yourself is taboo. You cannot even challenge the thought universe, the thought police. So something I'm missing, because I keep wanting to close this video out, but so addicted to enslavement, the alcohol. Oh, I wish my handwriting is so. Okay, that's what it is. So the same way. Okay, so this is what it was. Wait, is one of them. So alcohol and fapping and addiction and the accepting of that in society. Gas station. Oh, okay, so one thing that I said in the last video that I cleared up in the live comment or the live chat last night, that I kind of lost my train of thought. When I was talking about the gas station and I lost my train of thought. In the addictive behavior universe, being completely consumed in that universe, let's say me like 10 years ago. Whatever that, 2009. Yeah, let's say 10 years ago. Me 10 years ago, basically eating like McDonald's at times, 4 times a day sometimes. Completely in that world. I was in the military at that time too. When I was in that space, in my mind, I was in my peak physical condition. I was running marathons. Well, I ran one full marathon and a bunch of other just like 5, 8, and 10 mile runs, and on a regular basis. But my diet was horrible. My psychological diet, my spiritual diet, my physical obvious diet was horrible. My body was so strong, and I was so active that you can't really see how sick people really are. It's not on the outskirts. You can't see it. So that's one of the things that this system has gotten good at. You can't see your own self-destruction. In fact, you cherish and worship your own self-destruction. So this goes into, like I talk a lot about how focusing a lot on your body in the gym rat mentality. This is another version of like the New Age movement, the New Age version of trapping individuals. So I don't want to go into that too much. What was I saying? Fapping out. Okay, so at that time, I looked great. I felt good to a certain degree, but I didn't know what good felt like. That's the thing. We don't know what good feels like. When you're trapped in the universe, like when Joe Rogan was talking about when the guy brought up NoFap, and Joe Rogan went straight to, everybody's gonna be, no, he doesn't even know what feeling that what any of that feels like. So he's just in that authority realm, and he's oh well, that's gonna happen. This is gonna happen. Dot, 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 dot. And people are gonna say, "Yep, that's gonna happen. I'm just gonna. If I stop masturbating, I'm gonna be filled with so much sexual energy. I'm just gonna want to fuck everything." And then that is that basic math as consciousness. That is the Darwinian monkey evolution human experience bullshit. So. Those are the individuals out there defending that universe. And no real change is going to happen until you break out of that universe, individually and collectively. But it has to happen individually first, and has to happen internally before it happens individually first, before you start to see external stuff. So, let me finish this. The gas station. When I was in the military, I had the idea of food. Like I said, eating McDonald's sometimes 4 times a day. I had food, I had water, I had relationships, I had exercise, I had purpose. I was like defending my country and that whole shit. And I had a job, I had this whole thing. And so you have the illusion of creating something. You have the illusion of being a creator of something. All of that has been given to me at that time by the system of this FAP Earth universe. So who am I in that world? I'm not even alive. I am the undead at that time. So once you start, you don't cease to be undead until you start realizing that which makes you alive. That which makes you alive, one of the main things are your creative energies. How the fuck did you get here? What like the creative intelligence? What is it that you're saying and you're thinking about? Where did this stuff come from? What is this? See, the system of authority wants to gift wrap the answers for those questions to you instead of allowing you to think about that for yourself, or even allowing you to go and research what your ancestors have already done. It's illegal in many different ways to just go in and research what your ancestors. You can't even say that. You'll be labeled a fucking I'll be labeled a fucking terrorist for the shit I've shared on this channel. Talking about the ancestors. That is a threat to the state authority consciousness. That's a threat to the empire. So once you stop filling yourself with the fuel, with the gas station, with the Shell gas station, the shell of yourself. Once you stop going to the Shell gas station to fill up your life, you start seeing other forms of energy. This is what Joe Rogan didn't realize when he started talking about no fat. See, Joe Rogan thinks that all the energy only exists in the realms of going to the Shell gas station. Petroleum. Oil, fossil fuels, that whole bullshit ass storyline. That is their everything. That is what the system uses as an excuse to go invade other fucking nations and take over lands and kill people. That's directly locked into this creative intelligence of this whole reality. To accept that. Like I said, this taps into the prison industrial complex and the military industrial complex easily. So to accept that is to accept that universe, is to accept the energies that are attached to that universe at the same time. So we, in many different times, I'll use me in 2009 as an example. At that time, I was trapped in a universe that I thought that was the only universe. And I was only filling up my life, my world, with that gas station, that cheap, fucked up, leaded gas that just weighs you down and only allows you to go so far before you have to fill up again. That will destroy your inner workings, that will destroy your motor. Bad gas, water in that gas. It'll rust your internal parts out. It'll eat you alive. It'll shorten your lifespan. It'll fuck with your emotions. It'll make you clunk down the road. You'll be like clunking down the road, fucking blowing all kinds of head gaskets and uh, backfiring, shooting all kinds of shit all over the place, and you call that normal. That's what Joe Rogan calls it, normal. He said, oh yeah, we're just these human shit bags who just want to go around conquering lands and fucking everything and burning shit and eating shit and taking shit over. Yeah, that's humanity. No, that ain't humanity. That's some old fucked up ass interpretations of this reality that the empire needs to keep emphasizing as normal through these colonial cucks like Joe Rogan, and including Owen Benjamin and Alex Jones and Killer Mike and all these other fuckers out there that are saying the same bullshit. So, once you start to tap into your creative energies, you start to realize the alternative forms of energy. You're no longer needing that leaded or unleaded gas anymore. See, the new age, new world order, that's like switching from leaded gasoline to unleaded gasoline. A lot of people don't even remember that. See, there used to be leaded, now it's unleaded. That's why they call it unleaded. So, is it still fucked? Of course it is. That's the whole point. So people are going to be, oh, wow, we are changing. We're moving to unleaded fuel. That means we care about Earth. We care about the environment and the people. No, they don't. They're trying to buy more time. It's trying to buy more time. So, back to the fuel thing. Once you break out spiritually, psychologically, and physically, on not like completely, not perfection seeking like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like percentage wise, energetically, whatever it is for the individual. Once you break out of that, you start to tap into energy sources and cells and parts of yourself that were never even you were never even aware of that. Just like Joe Rogan isn't aware of the benefits of not masturbating, every like on a regular basis. He's in fact he's not only not aware, he is anti-aware, which is like this. It's like the anti-history. Like in the history books, see, we don't even know our regular history. It's not that we don't only not know our history. We are held back from even questioning this history or looking into our storylines. See, and we are told, so these are different layers of how we are enslaved. At the same time, this is anti-history. We are told a false history. We are told a broken, fucked up history. That's anti-history. That's the same kind of approach that Joe Rogan had when he was responding to the NoFap. It's anti-information. Him saying that you're just going to fuck everything when you stop masturbating, and you're going to start making bad decisions and start fucking, people. You're going to find people to fuck all the time because you're filled with it. Nah, that's anti-information, like the anti-history that's taught in the anti-history books of our anti-education system. It's information that is designed to amplify the FAP universe, the FAP Earth. It has nothing to do with the intricacies of your creative intelligence, and everything to do with keeping you from getting there, tapping into that. So that's a good example. I'm going to leave it there. That's a good example of how this affects us on a massive scale and how individuals are used to amplify that perspective. To finish the point that I didn't finish, the gas station, that storyline, you can see that as a world. Once you break out of that, you start tapping into the shit you didn't even know was there. You start getting solar energy, and this is all like metaphorical solar energy, like wind energy, wave energy, geothermal energy, spiritual energy, psychological energy, creative energy. Like you get energy from all these other different circuits because you are no longer subjecting yourself to the bullshit. You're no longer just accepting the gas station commercials of energy that are sold to you on a regular basis. But if you will never realize that that energy exists, or those alternative sources of yourself exist, you won't see that until you break out of the energy traps that are being amplified by the system itself. We are in an energy trap. One of them is the addictive behavior, the emotional triggering, the separating of you from nature. All of this is deeply ingrained within the modern mainstream enslavement program. So we are addicted to our own enslavement. And taken to the extreme, we will defend the programs of this enslavement no different than Joe Rogan was defending fapping. When he was saying, yeah, if you just stop fapping, if you stop looking at porn and stop doing all this stuff, you're just going to have people fucking all the time. No, you're going to have people you're going to have deeper relationships, deeper connections, less fucked up, less people getting, on that whole fake reality, fake relationship connection world. You're going to have less of that. It's the total opposite. But see, whether he realizes it or not, that was a really good example. His response to that was a really good example of how it doesn't matter if he's a known, if he's a conscious shill or not. It still has the same effect. He is still effective nonetheless. He is effective in his sense that however many months have passed since that video, how many millions of people, or hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands, doesn't matter, however many, just from that one video, from that one subject, from all his millions of subscribers on that podcast, how many people has that one little fuckhead affected? Because he's put out there on purpose, no different than Cardi B and all these other just low grade ass spiritual beings are promoted into your system. How many people are kept in a world of shit because of the same kind of mentalities that they promote every single day? See, this is not to be only talking about Cardi B and Joe Rogan. This includes Bill Maher, Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, John Oliver, all these assholes in the mainstream media, TYT, Alex Jones, Owen. It includes all these assholes, all of them. All of them, it's the same shit. They ain't getting in to your creative intelligence. At best, they're getting into reacting to the undead system. And like I said, is that a bad thing? No, it's a process you have to go through. Go through it. Get through it. But just what I'm saying is get through it. Don't stop just because other people have stopped, or just because other people have said this is only as far as you need to go. Challenge yourself to keep going. Go you're not going to be able to do that unless you start thinking for yourself, unless you start to challenge yourself to tap into that stuff. It's going to take and this is why a lot of it is so difficult. It's going to take a sacrificing of your old self, you're sacrificing your old emotions. Your old emotional triggers, you have to break that. You have to kind of pull yourself. It is like breaking up with yourself. You're breaking up with the fap earth universe of yourself. That person, you've been in a relationship with that person for how long? You're going to be chemically tied to that consciousness. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to go through some growing pains, and it's going to involve losing a part of yourself, but it's all going to be beneficial. You might feel like you've lost something completely, but the shit that you gain back when you start thinking for yourself and acting for yourself and really focusing on the stuff that is of a benefit to you instead of just the stuff that you just accept in reality, once you start doing that, there's nothing that can mess with you on that level anymore. A lot of your fear, your confidence comes back, the fear, everything changes. And I'm saying, this is not none of this is a fix everything pill. We are in like we are the ones that are the what is that word? In scientific experiments, you have the not the test. You have there's a placebo, not the standard. You have the damn it. It's at the tip of my tongue. Um. Anyway, whatever. It'll come back to me sometime. Point being is that you are always you when you're talking about or dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with. So if you're trying to change something, the best way to change something is to change how you engage in that something. How that's what I'm talking about here. It's not like you are the reoccurring theme in everything that you are addressing. So as long as you amplify and really like tune in everything that you address will be of a higher kind of it will be interpreted from a higher consciousness at least, and you can go on even further than that. So let me double check before I close this out. So yeah, the food there is in relation to the like the fapping and like I was saying and the food. This is connected to your triggering of your lower primal energies, your survival instinct energies, so that if you are constantly in the survival mode, spiritually you're in a survival mode when you're masturbating all the time and expending your creative energies. When you expend your creative energies like that, you're not having the capabilities to, you don't have the strength or the, this is how men can be emasculated. Men can be easily emasculated when they are lacking of their creative energies, when they are constantly insecure because they are bombarded with these images of masturbatory, creative, what is the term? Masturbatory creative barriers. So like these insecurities that happen, they happen chemically. Like we feel a certain way, and we see it in our emotions, how we act, and all that other stuff. But we're not addressing how this stuff affects us chemically. And then, if you can't even address how it's affecting you chemically, how are you going to be able to see how it's affecting you psychologically? And then if you can't even interpret and understand and understand that, how are we going to get into a space of breaking down how this stuff affects us spiritually? So that's the questions, that's the line of questions that people like Joe Rogan, their intention is to keep you from going there. Their intentions are to keep you from going there and to maintain where it is you do go. That is their intention. So to close this out, I'm not telling you to not, have an orgasm, not have sex, not eat meat. I'm telling you to be aware, or I'm sharing with you the reality that I've seen, or the importance that I've seen in being aware of the importance of doing that, like being aware of what's going on, being aware of that you are doing something. Because once you start paying attention to stuff, that's when you start holding yourself accountable for stuff. You don't look at these things with an eye of like a spiritual eye, you're never going to really change on a spiritual level. So I'm not saying like do what is natural to you until you feel something that is more natural. Then what I'm saying is that once you start once you start opening yourself up to deeper parts of yourself, that's when you start to see more natural expressions of yourself, deeper parts of how you express yourself. That's not going to happen if you're, a lot of the times we're defending that world. So yeah, and the same thing with like alcohol. Like it's like this with alcohol. I'm not saying like for me, like I have no desire. Like I don't have any. I'm sure I could drink a glass of wine and I'll be okay. But I don't. I feel I have a different relationship. Like that version of myself is different now. I used to work in a wine tasting room. I made wine. I went to school to make wine. So Like I've been in that whole that whole community. I know that whole um, that whole storyline, that consciousness that keeps that together. What is the glue that keeps that community together? It's the same kind of glue that keeps the mainstream community together. So the best way that I've learned is through experience. I'm not saying it's a like it's just the best way that I've learned. So I would say that the best way for other people to learn is through experience as well. So what I'm what I mean what I'm saying is that when I say that is that experience whatever it is that you are interested in for yourself and make your own damn decision. Make your own questions, make your own answers, and cross reference them with other people who are in that creative intelligence stream of consciousness. And then constantly build upon what it is that you yourself feel guided to do. Because everybody is so beautifully different on purpose. The diversity, this is what gets lost in this whole, we're all human, all that, but we're so beautifully diverse that everything just gets watered down and whited out. Everything is just this mayonnaise sandwich version of reality. It's a bullshit. And then they talk shit about you for being different. That's how fucked up this shit is right now. So if you are still working your way through that fucked up world, by all means do it. If you're listening to this video and you've never heard anything like this before, whatever, don't take it as like this is something to be told to do and then you hold this like a fucking religion or a cult or something. Hell no. Ain't nothing like that. The system is what I'm talking about is way more complex than any kind of one linear, especially in like the comment section. If people get in, anyway. So to close it all out, if you're gonna drink alcohol, whatever, just do it. I'm just saying, I feel different now. It's very related. Alcohol, fapping, and eating meat, and that whole world are related. I can't even say they're cousins. That's like brother and sister. Fapping, the meat eating, all fucked up world, it's not just limited to meat eating. It's just, it's the food. It's the synthetic food. All of it. All of that garbage. The garbage food consciousness. Because it's not limited to just meat. Because some people, I just use that as an example of, some people, the way meat is, because meat is like advertised to us. So anyway. Fapping, meat eating, and alcohol, all brother and sister. There's something there. Something very related in our energy centers that are... so alcohol... so food, sex, and alcohol. Think about your root chakra, your sacral chakra, and your solar plexus, your lower bodies. And think of how alcohol, fapping, and fucked up food affects you in those realms. I could go into breaking down what that is, but you already know. Like it's intertwined within all of those energy centers. And as long as those are, because it's more, it's not just those three, there's more than that. But as long as those energy centers are locked down, you're not really allowing yourselves to have a real heart-centered relationship, or even solar plexus, lower bodies. There is a natural kind of relationship that we have to ourselves, or an observation of this reality that we have to ourselves that we're not even allowing ourselves to get into because of the struggles that we have of the bombardment of this bullshit ass system. So work your way through that in your own way, with your own experience, challenging yourself to get better and better and better without having any kind of expectations, or just work on your discipline. Work on discipline, and don't be too hard on yourself, and then know that this is going to take time. Whatever it is that you're doing. It's in everything. Whatever it is that you're doing, just keep that in mind. And damn, I still didn't even say the thing that I wrote down. I said everything in and around that. But that. So yeah, the way alcohol is promoted in this society and attached to our reality, and the way it affects us is the same way, or fapping is the same, or expending of that energy and that whole thing, it's the same thing. It's promoted, it's accepted to affect your creative energy. So fapping is like the alcohol of your non-physical reality. Fapping is affecting the energies of your non-physical reality, very similar to the way alcohol is promoted to affect your reality, all of your realities, physical and non-physical. It's the same kind of, they're the same production company. Lionsgate, or what is it, the Harvey Weinstein, whatever those bigwig Spielberg movie production companies. That's what I say. It's the same thing. Alcohol, porn, that whole thing. It's all the same production company. So once we start to see that, hold it accountable for what it is, then we can start to break it down and take it a step even further. But like that last video was talking about, people are still defending this shit. people are defending the whole fact. Like Joe Rogan, that was only a few months ago. He was defending the fact without even going into the science. He called himself a science dude. He didn't even want to be open to the science shit. And this is what, yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it there. There's some other things but I keep pulling back from. There's a loud ass like helicopter shit going by too. So yeah, this is these are just some things to be aware of, and if it's not something that you think is going to be beneficial to your world, your universe, then leave it. leave it where it is. But if you do, I'd highly recommend it. Whatever it is that stuck out to you in this video or any of the other videos, start to challenge yourself, because there are benefits to this stuff. Something I didn't go through in the video last, and this is a better way to end the video. The benefits of the fast and the no fapping. Like I said, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. I've never felt this good. I have lost a lot of weight, but my muscle is there, and it's the fat that has gone. So my muscle is here, and now I'm building my muscle back up, but I have never been in the shape that I am in right now, even when I was in the military. And because this includes my spiritual shape, my psychological shape, and even more so my physical shape now. How I was thinking about it earlier is that I spent the majority of my last few years, like after I got out of the military, focusing on my psychological and spiritual bodies, because I had thought that I had never done that before. And I had thought that I knew everything there was to know about the body, because I had been running marathons and running all kinds of shit. I was in my peak physical shape, but I was in horrible spiritual shape and horrible psychological shape. I was broken in many different ways of that, in that perspective. But you can stay in that pride of like, oh yeah, I'm this great, until you die, like until your whole life is gone. And that's what the system wants for people to do. So having spent the last 10 years focusing on, or 9 years focusing on, probably like 8 to 9 years focusing on like this. Actually, it's 10 years, because I started to open the door longer than that, 11. It was in 2008 when I started to realize that the depths of how fucked up stuff was. So 2008 was when I started questioning things. 11 years ago. And even at that time, my psychological and spiritual versions of myself weren't even in the discussion because I had no idea what that was. So it was just kind of like walking or running blind. That's what it felt like, as opposed to where like right now, where I'm just like, I'm still like, I'm very, the awareness is the majority of my reality. This awareness was non-existent 10 years ago, so I was basically dead. The version of myself that I am now, on every energetic level, was non-existent. Like the awareness wasn't even there, the consciousness wasn't even there. If it was dormant, and I wasn't aware of it. But anyway, so now that I've gone through some years of the psychological and the spiritual versions or bodies of myself, now I'm looping back to the physical, and activating and amplifying the physical interpretations of what's going on. This is not to say that we're supposed to perfect this realm and all. I'm not saying that by any means. This place is fucked up in many different ways. I'm still interpreting what this realm really is. If that's even possible. I don't even think that's possible. I don't know what this realm really is. Let me just remove that whole statement from this video right now and say I'm still interpreting like the awareness of what's going on within this realm. Like what this realm is seems to be too complex to break it down to what it is. But what I'm doing here, just like anybody else, what they're doing, what somebody else is doing here might be different in some kind of way. It's definitely going to be different in some kind of way. That's how complex we are in this experience is. So, damn, I lost my train of thought now. Oh, okay, so that's what it was, physical. So yeah, part of the physical, one of the main things with the physical was deeply tied into the spiritual and the psychological. One of the main things was the fapping thing. So that was like a daily routine of harvesting or expending, like to be harvested by something else, of energies, of creative energies. How many years have people been investing into giving that creative energy away, or just leaving that creative energy out there in the ethers to just be harvested by in-betweeners? What So what does that mean? What is our responsibility there? We won't know until we pull ourselves out of that. So focusing now on the physical relationship between the psychological bodies and the spiritual bodies is something that I was missing out on. So this is where the more tuning in to the food, what's going into my body, and what's leaving my body too. So what's leaving, creative energies are leaving your body. What's coming in and what's going out. So that's the introduction to the physical consciousness, like the healing of some of this physical consciousness bodies that are going in there. And years down the line after this it's going to get even more complex and more intricate, and I don't even know what we're going to be able to tap into. As I say we, because there's a lot of other people on this journey too, doing different things. Some people might not see NoFap as a thing right now. Maybe they'll see it 6 months down the road. Maybe some people saw it 2 years ago. Maybe just now they're looking into why why culture or race or the racism agenda is important. Maybe they thought it was that important back then, and knew about it back then, but didn't know about something else now. Maybe they know about flat earth now. And so we all approach things at different times in different ways, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful, it constantly grows, and it's something that we need to, instead of holding other people like down for whatever it is, like we need to start challenging ourselves and each other to start bringing ourselves up, getting to like Step your game up. That's what I'm saying. When I make these videos and people get all butthurt in their emotions, go, you're talking about my friend. I'm a bear. I'm like Owen Benjamin. We're the Bear Clan. And you're not going to talk about my buddy like that. Owen Benjamin don't give a fuck about your little teddy bear ass. Get the fuck out of here. These people don't give one fuck about you. You are nothing but a number to these assholes out there to back up their plan behind the plan. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't know you. They're playing you. This is a game. So forgot where I was going with that, but yeah. Oh, people getting in their feelings, defending all that shit. Anyway, who cares? Bullshit. People gonna get all butt hurting in their emotions about shit anyway. And damn it, what the hell was I saying though? It was people start defending and the butt hurt sensitive. Ooh, whatever. Who cares? This video is long enough. I'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. I'm gonna be. There's some topics that I wrote down. I gotta go look at what I was gonna go into next. Oh, another cool. Well, I'll just save that. Yeah. I don't know if I said in the last video, but heliocentrism, the belief in heliocentric universe and that whole thing, that's not even a FAP orgasm. The heliocentrism, like I said, I did say it in there because it was tied into the old porn magazine thing, but it was worth repeating because it's a good picture to see when you're realizing like the universe that these people like Joe Rogan and Owen Benjamin in many different ways are defending. They're defending that old porn magazine, and they're saying like, yeah, we gave you this porn magazine so you can have that orgasm, but you're not even having an orgasm. And yeah, you're looking at a porn magazine, these CGI images of, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and all this little shit. You're having a fake version of an orgasm. You're having a synthetic orgasm. And just like the heliocentrism isn't even an orgasm. It's a magazine for you to trick yourself into a synthetic orgasm. And since people have been fapping to NASA for however many years and decades and fapping to the heliocentric universe, their synthetic creative energies from fapping in that universe forever is the only thing that they know. So this is why it's such a big thing. This is why people have to defend that universe, is because they're defending themselves. They're defending a part of themselves. I'm gonna end this video, otherwise I'll keep going on and on because I ain't made a lot of videos in a while. That's why some of these are longer right now. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.